Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K, and Villain Month has been going pretty well this year. And a couple of years ago, I did a video on villainous ideas of Disney villains that weren't in the game yet that I could see possibilities for. And to my surprise, years later, 2 of them actually got in. Still don't know why Sean Yu and Frollo haven't got in here, but Tamatoa has been added to the list, but I digress. And I got my aggression out of that as much as I could. But for this one, with the new Star Wars and Disney Villainous sets that came out recently, nothing new for Marvel Villainous. I mean, I don't know if they are taking a hiatus from that or if they are still coming up with ideas. So, I figured my good luck worked on the last video, so let's try doing Marvel Villainous ideas. That could possibly work. Now, I've stated before that my knowledge of Marvel outside of the movies, Spider-Man, isn't really that on point. So, bear with me on some of these ideas. But I was able to come up with 6 villain ideas that could definitely make the multiverse feel a little bit more threatening. And I'll be going over these characters, what their decks could be like, their objectives, all stuff like that. What else? Okay, so let me think. 6. I can do 3 in 1, 2 in 1, and then a single villain. So, let's start this madness out right. To start off this one is a set I like to call Okay. The writing just wasn't clear to me. It's called Universal Conquest. And this would be the 3 villain starter set, not starter set, expansion set, featuring characters where total conquest is the name of the game in various forms, from destroying planets to infecting them and making sure that everything is you, or sometimes just being a good old-fashioned mob boss. To start off this one would be the cover art villain, Galactus. This guy has yet to appear in the Marvel and the MCU. And it's going to be, I mean, he was kind of mentioned in Rise of the Silver Surfer. And yes, I love that. I like the original Fantastic Four. Sue me. But Galactus's playstyle could be very, very interesting. Conquering other characters' realms by utilizing the card Silver Surfer, sending his emissary out to the other to the other realms, the other players. So Galactus would have 2 different, a unique playstyle. Ironically, I came up with this right after last week. I did Ratigan, which has 2 objectives depending on the situation. And for this one, it would depend on how many players you are facing. Because if you're playing alone, 1 would be used. And if you're playing against more than 1 opponent, the other side would be used. So Galactus's tile would be double-sided. 1 being for one opponent and 2 and more, where the side 1 for the 1 player would be conquer the realm, and obviously on the flip side it would be conquer 2 or more conquer 3 realms with Silver Surfer at your aid. So basically, again, the same. Once you complete one, no, that doesn't really work. I'm trying to find the words to work because sometimes I don't. These are like fresh ideas just in my head. I never wrote them down, so I can remain fluid and remain these ideas to be fast paced. So basically, the game would start. Well, not start. Galactus would have to send the Silver Surfer to other realms, and one by one, Silver Surfer would have to move through each opponent's realm sections, each section, one by one. And every time he completes that, a tokens would be given. Every time Silver Surfer moves throughout the sections of the realm, you will be getting tokens. Well, not power, but there'll be custom tokens for Galactus. However, in order to move Silver Surfer, you either need to pay 3 power or have a special card that allows Silver Surfer to move an extra space during a turn at the cost of discarding some cards from your hand. And once Silver Surfer reaches the 4th section, at the end of your turn, he will return to your hand. And you'll be able to activate his second ability to mark that realm for conquest. So you'll have to give one of those. Let me think. Again, I'm spitballing ideas here. I'm free talking. Let's see, if after every space you get tokens, and once you get 4 tokens at once, you pay them all. Unless you just get power for each one, and once Silver Surfer reaches the 4th area, you pay 5 power, return them to your hand, and send a conquest token and send it to your opponent, where it's at one side, which will show Galactus's face, but the other side will have his helmet and his eyes glowing, indicating that you've been conquered. And once the token is on the marked for conquest, Galactus would have to find a specialty in his deck where he would have to use it, either pay a certain cost with the specialty, and then he can flip the token. But it would have to say that the opponent has to have certain conditions, like less than 3 power, less than 3 allies on the board, or less than 3 cards in their hand, indicating that the opponent the enemy is weakened at this time, so Galactus can conquer. And once the conquest token is flipped over to conquer, that token stays on the board on the opponent. And obviously for the one player. Wow, that really doesn't work, does it? Because if you do that, then the game's over. Although, if it's only one person, Galactus would be, easy to conquer. Unless his Fate deck has a lot of characters, like the Fantastic Four, because we still haven't gotten the Fantastic Four in Marvel Villainous yet, which is shocking. Very shocking. We could have characters like Sue Storm, who talks down the Silver Surfer, moving him back a couple spaces. Johnny Storm could obviously be used to attack characters in different adjacent areas. Or no, have that be Reed, Mr. Fantastic. Johnny could boost up the power of the Fantastic Four, and Ben would obviously have the Protector's insignia, making sure that you can't defeat any other heroes while he's in play, and he'll have like a high attack base. For allies, I could see Galactus basically having some of his most of his minions, not a lot of other villains, because Galactus kind of works on his own, except for Silver Surfer. He could be heavily effect heavy because he is conquering from far away, and he's going to conquer the worlds after Silver Surfer has marked them for destruction. Cards could allow Silver Surfer to either gain power and move a little bit further, like I said. We've already done something like this with Thanos corrupting, going into other realms in order to collect the Infinity Stones. This way, we're just sending our guy, Silver Surfer, to claim the world as marked for destruction. Simple idea. Have the Fantastic Four be the main heroes. And obviously, there would be a card, an event. For Galactus' main event, a specific event. How about an event where Silver Surfer kind of feels misguided emissary, where it would show Silver Surfer facing towards the giant power that is Galactus with the Fantastic Four behind him. Basically, this would prevent this event would prevent you from moving Silver Surfer or playing him to any other domain. In order to fix this event, you would have to pay a certain amount of power while having other allies on your board, and that would bring around basically recontrolling Silver Surfer again. He was a great character in 94. He was a great character in a first boss fight in Spider-Man. And he's been goddamn perfect in a series. I'm talking about Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. the Kingpin. Now, I'm going to be honest, when I was younger again, because of the Spider-Man show, I saw Kingpin as a full-on Spider-Man villain. But upon realizing that he's got a big beef with Matt Murdock, it's fantastic. Kingpin, obviously, being a crime lord and a big-ass crime lord, he would most likely want to conquer his realm. Kind of like with Madame Mask. I'll get to her like in the next couple of years. I'm still going through a lot of the Marvel Villainous sets for reviews. Wilson Fisk could have the objective of basically what any crime boss does. Taking over all 4 sections of his realm. Obviously, it will kind of be like an indicator of profit, of how much he's making through each conquest. By taking over the certain areas on his board, he influences the people in it. He threatens people as he would, sending a lot of his allies to capture the territory, basically. Characters like Shocker, Bullseye. I don't really know a vast majority of the other villains that would work with Daredevil. I still need to re-watch Daredevil series. It's fantastic. I just need to catch up because I haven't watched it since season 1. Yeah, I'm very behind. I have a lot of shit to watch. Having a lot of effects and items that improve his influence. That's what it could be. Have your influence indicator be at 10 at the start of your next turn. Bringing back some of the old Disney villain objectives of having to have a certain goal at the start of your turn. But for this, yeah, instead of conquering as your allies and effects and items affect each location, your notoriety or your influence throughout the criminal underwood is growing and growing. And there are obviously characters that are going to try to stop you, like the Punisher, Matt Murdock and company, and obviously one of the areas is going to be Murdoch's office. And because Murdoch's a lawyer, not just as for Daredevil, we could have cards like Snitch, which would have an image of like a character of like one of the thugs ratting out Kingpin's operations to Matt Murdock for a deal, or Subpoena, which would allow you to send cards back to send certain allies back into Fisk's deck and shuffling them up. Because certain characters like Shocker, Bullseye would have the ability to reduce the power of Murdoch's allies and defeat them easily. And with the card Subpoenas, because that would be an effect in a lot of Fisk's deck, which would be sending cards back from the field into the deck and shuffling. Because again, the best way to end a crime syndicate is to get rid of the accomplices and to get big evidence. And a couple other cards for his specialties. Power Hungry, which could show Fisk slamming his fist onto his desk, breaking it in anger. Activating this specialty would allow Fisk to skip his next draw phase and then search for any ally in his deck and add it to his hand. Something like that would, because Fisk is such a big crime lord, you gotta take certain risks in order to get big rewards. So not drawing, not gaining power, not allowing your characters. I just came up with a different mechanic for Fisk. Having Murdoch's Daredevil blind justice tokens, where instead, no, this could work. The tokens of Matt Murdock, instead of having a lot of the characters, a lot of the heroes, like Bucky, no, not Bucky Barnes, the characters that help out Matt Murdock, again, I don't really know them, like Punisher, Elektra. Instead of having them be heroes, have them be effects. All the cards in Wilson Fisk's will be effects, and they will have blind justice tokens that cover up actions on his board. Not just on the top, but on the bottom as well. Removing Fisk's influence and allowing and kind of having a strategy where you have to use your certain cards to instead of defeating heroes, Fisk will have no vanquish actions, where he will instead use the allies and effects and items to remove the blind justice tokens, which will increase his influence throughout the realm. Yeah, because we had to remove tokens as Gaston, so having tokens cover your actions instead of having hero cards could definitely work. And for Fisk's major event, since it's Matt Murdock, let's go for Day in Court, which would obviously showcase Fisk on trial. During this, because while you're on trial, Fisk cannot remove blind justice tokens. And for this one, he'd have to send his allies to the event. Once it's completed, Fisk may remove up to 4 tokens from different locations. So he can't remove 4 from the same location. It has to be evenly distributed between different areas. And our third character for Universal Conquest is the one and only Ego. Because we have Gamora and Drax already in the game for heroes, but we still have yet to have the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And Ego. Oh, Ego. This guy is literally a living planet. So how can you work that into an entire game board and work with his objective? Colonize other realms. No, wait. Colonize other worlds while Star-Lord is in your domain. That's perfect, because he did need another Celestial in order for his plan to work. Because coming up with a board for Ego would be kind of hard because he doesn't really have any other locations other than literally himself. But then I got the idea from another Disney villain, Villainous board. King Candy's entire board is Sugar Rush Raceway, and it's literally a racetrack. As you move throughout the racetrack, you have to finish a lap, which is perfect because again, it's based on the movie. And with the Marvel one, you don't really go on the movie, you go on the entire comics and the series and all that. So for Ego, his entire board is him, but his actions are spread throughout 4 different sections of the board. Like the whole board is his giant planet-sized face, but but you can only do you have to, but he still has to move his marker on different sections of his board. Basically the same as any other character, but there are no. There has to be consequences. Because the heroes can obviously occupy the 4 sections of him. It's just one location. So obviously for Ego's scheme, he would plant the seeds of his own creation. Literally having him literally be a card. Ego. Fellow, Cosmic Adventurer, or a card of him where you place him where you place yourself into your opponent's boards. So he'll send multiple versions of himself throughout the other games. And Ego's whole strategy is to again plant those special flowers that will colonize the entirety of other planets, making him the sole entity of the world, of the galaxy. And these flowers will have special effects depending on how long they're on the board. And obviously, it would be kind of easy if players can just get rid of them. Luckily, these things can be exactly like the allies or hero cards. They will cover up an opponent's. No, because then they would be a threat. Man, this is harder than this is always harder than I thought, implementing the villain scheme into this card game and make it feel actually like it works so well. Unless his specialty is the recolonization, and the specialty allows him to gives an opponent tokens that have the flower, that have his colonizing flowers on them, gives them power, and if these players don't use these tokens, every turn the opponent has a token, they either have to lose 2 power or discard a card from their hand at the end of every turn. And once that token is spent, Ego gets to search his deck, take one of the flower cards, and place it on the opponent's side of the board for that realm, allowing the sprout to flourish. And this item cannot be affected by opponent's cards. These cards have to either be Seriously, as I'm talking these out, it's easier to think about, but having Ego, again, have his flowers being planted once the opponent discards his special power tokens. Yeah, because it's just like when he was populating with many species. Once that happens, his plant starts to bloom, and once he gets a certain amount of the flowers, because he needs to have 4 flowers in bloom. Yeah, for his recolonization. And then he gets to activate his effect, Everything is Me. Where he has to look at the top 5 cards of his deck. And if he finds another everything is ego, he wins the game. Now, the trick is for this is that there will only be 2 copies of everything is ego. So he literally has to deplete his deck and look for himself again. Because it kind of works, because once his flowers are good, the card has no other effect. Yeah, that works. Having to start his flowers and then look for everything as ego. That active, but he has to have Star-Lord in play. The card would say, if Star-Lord is not in your realm, everything is ego's effect is changed to draw 2 cards. So Star-Lord, being his only celestial perfect child, needs to be in your realm on your side. And there will obviously be that mesmerized moment where Star-Lord is brainwashed, kind of, and brought over to his side. And obviously there will be effects where he's trying to get Star-Lord's affections. Father and son, where a moment where they're hanging out. Something like that in order to show the manipulation that he's doing. And obviously for hero cards, we got Yondu, we got Groot, we got Rocket, we got Mantis, obviously, and of course, Star-Lord being the hero, the hero that has the ability. While Star-Lord is on the hero side of the board, ego cannot complete his objective. When Star-Lord's power is reduced to 0, he goes to ego's side. So again, ego's cards will lower Star-Lord's high attack power of 10. Probably one of the highest ever, but because he's such an important character, making his high power a harder objective to complete. And that's it for Galactical Conquest, ladies and gentlemen. And now we're on to the 2-character Mutated Allegiances, where we get another villain from the Fantastic Four. Dr. Doom could be an amazing villain for this, but obviously he won't be the box art villain. Dr. Doom, basically, his scheme, I mean, I know he takes over a country and everything. Again, I'm not really well-versed in the comics or anything. All I know is basically from video games, cartoons, and the movies. And I know he's a power-hungry nutcase. Defeat the Fantastic Four. Simple like that. Obviously, it's not going to be that difficult because unlike Galactus's Fantastic Four variations, these Fantastic Four are all supercharged. For example, with the Thing, Thing would have like not a high attack power. I mean, a pretty good attack power, but would have an ability where I'm still not 100% happy on that objective of just defeating the Fantastic Four. What if defeating them also gets him to conquering his kingdom? Because I know he runs a country, technically. Conquers it, more like. So, again, the Fantastic Four, obviously, once all 4 of them are defeated, Wait a minute, I'm getting something. What if after you defeat all 4 Fantastic Four, you have to have a specialty that's Fantastic No More, and it shows Doom on his throne in power with all 4 members below his feet. Depending on each Fantastic Four member, for each number that's of them that are yes, you put them underneath the card, and for each one you get to pay a certain amount of power for each one, and a certain ability will work. For example, with 1 you pay 2 power, and you get to search your deck for 1 effect or 1 item and add it to your hand. 2 Fantastic Four, you pay 5 power, and you get to defeat a hero that is not a Fantastic Four. That is not Fantastic Four from your realm, and you get to defeat a hero that's not Fantastic Four from your board. or relocate them to another hero, and then you get to fate that hero with the top card of the fate deck. 3 Fantastic Four, you pay 7 power, and you get to search for the final Fantastic Four member and place them on the board, and put 1 power and put 1 power token on that hero. Once you get all 4, you pay 10 power and you win the game. So somewhat kind of like Ultron a little bit, where as you progress, you get to unlock his other specialties, which fully upgrades him. But for each Fantastic Four member you defeat, you get to absolutely conquer. Yeah! See, free talking really helps me get ideas and make things sound better. Okay, continuing. Invisible Woman. She enters the field, and she cannot be vanquished. She cannot be targeted for a vanquish action. What you will do, however, is use certain effect cards to add the power tokens on Sue. And for Sue, you need to have her have 4 power tokens on her in order for her to become visible. You know what? Going back to the thing, yeah, if he's defeated when he has 4 or more power tokens. Because obviously, Fantastic Four, I'm going to make all four have 4 power tokens needed for their abilities to be finished. Because it fits. And again, once you defeat each member, you get to claim those power tokens. Obviously, they would come from the shared supply. For Sue, she's, again, invisible. The Invisible Woman, Sue Storm. But once she gets the power tokens on, she starts to weaken and starts to become visible. And that is when you can defeat her. Once Sue is defeated, while Sue has less than 4 power tokens, she cannot be targeted. Once she has 4, that effect is locked down and you can defeat her. For Reed Richards, at the end of each turn, Dr. Doom has to discard 2 cards from his hand at the end of each turn. No. While Reed Richards has less than 4 power tokens, at the beginning of his turn, at the end of his turn, Doom has to either draws one fewer cards from his deck, or during his phase when he collects power, he collects 1 less power. That, and also if Sue is on the board with Reed, that goes up by 1. So he would have to draw 2 less cards or gain 2 less power if Sue is on the board. Obviously, once he has 4 power on him, his ability is shut down, and you have to defeat him. And for Johnny Blaze, basically Johnny can't. Let me think. When Johnny is played, just defeat an ally that is at his new location. And while he's on that board, any allies at Johnny's location loses 2 power. But once he has 4 power, that ability is again shut off. So again, all 4 Fantastic Four members have to have their abilities, their powers turned off in order for Doom to defeat them. And again, for specialty moves, Now You See Her, basically an effect that allows Sue to be shuffled back, into the deck, and Victor loses 3 power, and any power on her returns to the supply. For Reed Richards, Rival in Science and Love, showing Reed in a stretchy combat mode facing off Doom. while Reed is on the board, maybe this effect would allow Doom to have to shuffle his hand back into his deck and then only draw one card. For Johnny for the Human Torch, flame on. Every ally in Doom's realm lose 1 power. If an ally is reduced to 0 power by this effect, discard those allies. So again, using his basic ability and amplifying it to new end. Man, I'm going a lot into this, but thankfully I can edit this out. And once again, Dr. Doom wins the day by conquering the Fantastic Four. This next one is very, very simple. We got the cover art character, Magneto of the X-Men. How have we gone starters box, expansion 1, solo expansion 3, without any X-Men? Seriously, what the hell? Why are there X-Men aren't here yet? Magneto is the perfect villain. And to unite all mutant kind and to rise up, Magneto will have to have 4 allies in his realm while having an ally at every single domain as well. And obviously he has to activate his specialty, Mutant Kind Unite, which is a specialty that he can activate immediately to have in play, but its effect will only work if the conditions are met. But while this card is in specialty, he can pay 1 power in order to search for a mutant and add it to his hand. For Magneto, obviously his deck will be ally heavy, and they'll all have the mutant tagline with them as well. We'll have characters like Quicksilver, we'll have the Blob, we'll have Avalanche, we'll have Toad, Mystique, obviously. Basically an entire deck of the mutants, and each of them will have their own special ability, either giving or gaining power for each other mutant. Having unique abilities that defeat heroes, search for cards, and they can even be sent into the opponent's realm in order to fight back the other villains. Basically, Magneto is trying to unite all the villains against the other villains and to basically win the mutant war. For his hero deck, obviously the X-Men, an entire Fate deck of nothing but heroes. I mean, obviously, Magneto's villain deck will have some effects and his specialties. Obviously, there will have to be an effect card. Mutant versus Mutant being the event, having him and Charles Xavier doing battle with all their forces behind them. Magneto cannot win the game while this card is active. Once it's defeated, you can search your deck for up to 2 new mutants, and you get to defeat a hero on your board. I'm thinking of a way to make this an even harder one. Yeah, you can have as many mutants on the board. You have to have 4 one at each location on your board, but you have to have at least 2 other mutants in each other opponent's realm. Also, the opponent can't. You yourself cannot have 4. You can't have 4. You can only have 1 hero in your domain in order to win. So you have to outnumber your heroes, but you also have to have 2 of your allies in the other domains. Yeah, that could work for Magneto. And again, Professor X being a villain, a hero card, Wolverine, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Storm, Jubilee, Rogue, Gambit, and Jean Grey may have a very important part to play. Jean Grey can be a hero at the time, but if you have your effect card called the Phoenix Awakens, if Jean Grey it would have a high cost of 6, where if Jean Grey is on your board, you discard her and you get to search for Dark Phoenix and play her to any realm. Again, utilizing the fact that Dark Phoenix is also a villain. And obviously each member of the X-Men will have their own ability that will work against Magneto. It would be just a cool deck to have seriously, I'm putting in Fantastic Four, the rest of the Guardians, and the frickin' X-Men in this, and Marvel Villainous hasn't done it once, except for Drax and Gamora being in Thanos' deck. But still, it's taking so long. And now, at the end of this, we come to the single villain. To the single villain expansion of the rest of my list. Who, other than Venom, can have their own unique playstyle for a single expansion? Well, as a YouTuber I love with a passion, and one of the first YouTubers I watched that helped me get a little bit more perspective on a lot of comic book stuff.
Man literally makes a deal with the devil. Yeah, these days heroes have to make deals with the devil. Wife he can come home to. Oh, wait. He should make a deal with Mephisto. Since Mephisto... Maybe it was Mephisto. I'll get on the hotline to Mephisto. Like, one more day. JMS in one more day. Why I hate one more day. Considering my own thing with one more day. Spider-Man and Mary Jane's little tryst with Satan traded life with her for life with his dying on to the devil. So of course they had to have the devil. Spider-Man's deal with the devil. Making a deal with the literal devil. Please, I've consorted with Satan. Spider-Man makes a deal with the devil. I hate you.
As much as the gag is on that one story, Mephisto is a pretty good villain. And I heard that he was in the new show Ironheart, I guess. But having Mephisto be in the game would be hell on earth. Because researching these villains on what characters can be utilized, I found out that Mephisto is also a Ghost Rider villain. So we get Johnny Cade. We get Johnny Blaze. We get Johnny, baby. Mephisto would have his own unique realm, various locations from Marvel, because literally Mephisto is everywhere. He's the goddamn devil. His whole goal, collect 5 contracts. How do contracts work? Well, basically, you use effects to look for the contracts, and then you send these contracts to the opponent into the opponent's hand. Now, these contracts are items, and they cannot be discarded with the discard action. Basically, these contracts will, kind of like the Infinity Stones, will allow players to get their goal, to work out their goals. Basically, they get to search their deck for any card they want, any ally, some contracts will allow you to search for certain cards that you need, will allow you to defeat heroes without using a vanquish action, will allow you to gain more power, these contracts will basically allow you to do everything. But again, like a villain of mine always said, all magic comes with a price. And the price, once you've played your contract, Mephisto gets your soul. Mephisto gets whatever contract you do, once you play your contract and you activate its effect, that contract will go right into Mephisto. Will go right into Mephisto's specialty section, and he gets to activate that contract. So yes, the contracts are Mephisto's specialties. And again, sorry, I'm blanking right now. Sorry. So basically, Mephisto has to get you to utilize those contracts in order to, again, deal with the devil. Helps you get what you need, but at the same time, yeah, you're kind of screwed. Because it helps him get his goal, and he can utilize the specialties as well. But also, Mephisto will have to deal with the Ghost Rider, as he'll stop the effects, as he'll shut down the contracts by sending them to the discard pile, getting rid of them, and basically screwing Mephisto over like the Ghost Rider would. But because I saw this from the Ghost Rider movie many years ago, those elemental vampire guys that are earth, water, and air, because obviously Ghost Rider is technically fire, those allies can work on afflicting the other opponents with certain effects or restrictions, where just have them be utilized. Have Mephisto literally screw over every villain with effects, with his contracts, many different contracts in his deck for many different reasons. Have a good amount of allies. And for the event, basically an event that prohibits Mephisto from collecting. No, wait, because once they activate the contracts, then they would immediately go, so that doesn't make sense. Yeah, his specialties won't be the contracts. They'll specifically just be items that are placed in his realm and allow him to do so. So he'll have to use cards like contract fulfilled or payment is due, where Mephisto gets to retrieve the contracts once they're on the opponent's boards and then utilize them himself, while at the same time weakening the opponent. And for the event, I'm going to throw a big middle finger. One more day, where a lot of the cards will showcase Mephisto with with some of the heroes, kind of taunting them and manipulating them in certain ways. And for the event, we'll get one more day where it will show Mephisto encircling Peter Parker, MJ, and Aunt May as a throwback to that god-awful frickin' comic. Basically, Mephisto cannot claim contracts. Mephisto cannot utilize his specialties. Once the event's defeated, you may search for two contracts. You may search for a contract and activate one of your specialties immediately after the event's defeated. Even if because once during that turn, it's locked down. So yeah, a big jab, and the specialty will be one more day. I'm just calling the set one more day to make it even easier. Oh, for either Kingpin or Magneto, because I have her artwork up, and I forgot to mention, we need to have an Emma Frost villain card. We need to have her ally card. Because, hot damn. I know it's a stupid thing to comment on, but I just needed to say it. So, yeah. Wow. I couldn't believe I actually got through this. Galactus, Ego, Kingpin, Doctor Doom, Magneto, and Mephisto. All fantastic villains that could bring back out so many new mechanics and so many new strategies for new Marvel Villainous, and I really hope that they continue with Marvel Villainous. And that's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. What do you guys think of my ideas? And once again, are my ideas a little too far-fetched, a little too out there? Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe down below. Join me next week where I end Villain Month 2025 where before Halloween, instead of talking about villains, I'm going to go into some supernatural entities that are cause for investigation in one of my favorite games. This is Gamer K, logging out.